This is COGS, where we learn about cognitive science. Hi guys, so today I want to talk about brains. I thought that we should begin by talking about the fundamental basis of the brain, which is the neuron. Fun fact, Sigmund Freud actually was originally trying to work on the neuron, but then instead ended up working in a psych ward and coming up with all these crazy theories. Neurons are kind of like your arm, so they have this long body called the axon, and at the end they have the dendrites that attach to other axon terminals. Basically what happens in the neuron is the cell body and the dendrites receive a signal that is a neurotransmitter. It's like a protein that binds to receptors, and then that sets off a electrochemical reaction that travels all the way down the body. So basically ion channels are opening up, and that causes imbalance of ion charges. So then the ion gates next to it open up to try to balance that charge across the boundary of the neuron. So that domino effect goes all the way down the axon to axon terminals. The axon body let off little packets called vesicles full of neurotransmitters. People love to talk about how your brain is steeped in chemicals, like a good cup of tea. Of course, it takes a little while to re-uptake the neurotransmitters. Also, the ion channel stuff has to reset and everything, which is why when cells fire, they can't fire for a short period after that. So neurons are all over your body. That's how you feel stuff, but they're also in your brain. Probably heard the terms white matter and gray matter. Gray matter is the cell body part of the neuron, while white matter is made up of axons mainly. So your brain is made up of 10 to the nth neurons and 10 to the nth neuron connections within your brain. So your brain, 4 different areas: frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, occipital, temporal, frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, and cingulate, and limbic structures, and medulla oblongata and stuff. Frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal. Just practice that over and over, kids, and one day you too will know the areas of the brain. A quick synopsis of what each area does. The frontal area, which is from where you would put a headband forward, at least those of us that wear headbands. That frontal area is mostly for social cognition, a lot of things that make us human. The sense of self that's where decision making happens. There's a specific area, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. So your frontal lobe is all of that. Prefrontal is just forehead area. So it's like right between your eyes. That's where your risk assessment is thought to be. So people who have damage to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, or the VMPC, have like gambling problems. Then there's the occipital cortex. It is mainly the area where vision is processed. So there's V1, which essentially just detects whether or not something is in a specific part of your visual field. V2, I think, detects lines. So it like puts together stuff from V1. And then V4 and V5 are where you figure out color, other stuff. So if you get hit on the back of the head, then you'll see stars, because that's where vision happens. In blind, interestingly enough, it can be repurposed for feelies. You have the parietal, which is right up here. Some of it goes towards spatial awareness. Somatosensory cortex and motor cortex kind of are. There's an area that I mentioned last time, RTPJ, which is thought to be used in theory of mind. Also attention. Then the temporal cortex, which is kind of around your ears and is mainly defined by the sylvian fissure. So if you've ever seen a brain, how it kind of has that little pocket right here, that's the sylvian fissure. The temporal lobe is mainly for auditory processing. It's right next to your ears, so I guess that makes sense. For some reason, your eyes aren't right next to where vision is processed. I don't know. I guess that's just where it ends up. Also, language. There's a major area on your left hemisphere. There's Wernicke's area, which is spelled Wernicke's, who's German. Also, Broca's area. Both of these areas, if they are damaged, then you will have trouble talking. Also, for some reason, it has been shown that if you have temporal lobe disturbance, you can have like this eerie feeling of someone being in the room with you. There was a study that was trying to show that temporal lobe seizures were involved in people who were really religious, that they were somehow having seizures in that area. I think that that was disproved. It was a very ill-conducted study that didn't really have reproducible results, so yeah. So those are the 4 areas of cortex that we talk about as brain people. Beyond the cortex, which is just this outer layer of brain, underneath that there's the cingulate cortex, which is just kind of this little sub-brain thing. So then underneath the cingulate cortex, you have the limbic structures, which include the hippocampus, which is that creepy, weird looking thing. The hippocampus is involved in memory. I don't know a whole lot about it, but my best guess would be that the hippocampus is kind of like linchpins for your memories. So one spot is kind of connected to like a web or a net of components of that memory, so it can kind of store data more efficiently. The amygdala, which looks like a walnut, is involved in the fight or flight response and other kind of strong emotions. The thalamus, the hypothalamus, which are both involved in hormonal regulation and body regulation in general. Somewhere in there is the basal ganglia, which I think is also involved in movement and has deterioration in like Parkinson's. Then there's at the back of your head, underneath, right back here, that's where your cerebellum is, or the hind brain, the reptilian brain. So this is the cortex that's mostly involved in muscle coordination. So basically in creatures like cats, for instance, have gigantic cerebellum. Underneath the cerebellum is the subdullum oblongata and the pons, both of which are kind of really old. Mostly, takes care of heartbeats and breathing, stuff that you need to survive. So yeah, those are the parts of the brain. Hope you memorized it all, because I'm gonna give you a quiz. No. I guess that's all about the brain for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll have a new video next week. Stick around.